You grew up in Pittsburgh. When a kid in Pittsburgh dreams about the Rose Bowl, what's that dream look like?
You know, Pittsburgh is a football town. So when you think about football, there are moments. You know, there's the immaculate reception. There are moments where you saw, you know, VHS cassettes of games that were, you know, you heard the music, dun 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 dun, like so many moments pop up that are iconic moments that make you dream about that. That should be me, and a lot of times you saw games taking place in the Rose Bowl, and I could say one memory that really sticks out for me was obviously, and I want to say it was '94, where Penn State was playing Oregon.
It was the '94 season, the '95 Rose Bowl.
'95 Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And they played Oregon in this very stadium, and a guy by the name of Kajana Carter gets the ball on the first play, and
he's still running.
He's still running. He's probably tired from still running from '95. So it's that there's been a few very, very historical moments that hold value to me. Charles Woodson is a name that comes to mind. In the I want to say it was '97, which would have probably been the '98 Rose Bowl that they played in, and just seeing how dominant he was, and during the course of that season, winning the Heisman, of course, during the course of that season, and I just always wanted to have the opportunity to play here. Never made it.
Never made it. Is that a regret? People have a bucket list. People have a regret list. Is that a regret of yours?
I can't regret it because it's a team sport, but it's something that obviously if you played in the Big Ten, you would have loved to have the opportunity to play for a Rose Bowl because that meant that you won the Big Ten. Of course, my last year, they were just getting into having the championship game, and so I would have wanted to play. I think that would have been the Sugar Bowl. I want to say that would have been my last year in school. But we missed out on all the big games while I was in college. But I tell you what, the pageantry, the legacies connected to the Rose Bowl, the history that's connected to this place, it's second to none.
2023. Over Hawley's Utah team, Penn State wins that. What do you remember? Were you here?
I was here.
Okay, well, put us there.
You know, I just recall there being a whole lot of support for Utah's team, but they weren't louder than Penn State fans. I remember doing the "We Are" chant on the big screen on the Jumbotron, and you would have thought that it was a reverse of 80-20%. You would have thought it was 80% Penn State fans and 20% Utah fans, but it was a sea of red that was here that day to experience and watch how Big Ten football is played. So at least to have a good idea of what it's going to feel like to go into the 10. It's going to be a pretty exciting year. I'm being sarcastic, of course. You know, there's some sarcasm in my voice, but we did whoop them pretty good that day. But that game was it was wet. It was a wet day. It was a little bit of rain that day, but not enough rain to dampen the spirits of Penn State fans that were here in attendance, including myself. I was on the sideline with our athletic director, Pat Kraft, super awesome guy, great guy for the job at our school. But we had a great time that day. There was a lot of high-fiving. My wrist and my hand was sore because he's an old linebacker. I'm an old linebacker. So they were really physical hand claps. And at some point we realized that we were whooping Utah so good that we just had to keep slapping hands. And so there was some icy hot and some ice later on at the house after that game because we had played a game as well of high fives and handshakes and hugs.
Holly, have you heard enough from him?
Shout out the senior, Paul Clifford.
There you go.
So much abuse that he showed up that day.
He did show up.
How did playing football affect your work ethic, your character, make you the person that you are today?
You know, we live in a world that is full of discrimination. And it's interesting because discriminating is made to be such a derogatory term, but in reality, it's a real term. Everything you do is going to be discriminated against, right? How big you are, how hard you work, how are you on time, like, and then they're going to say, okay, this person is on time, so I'm going to take this person over that person. This person works hard, so I'm going to take that person over this person. This person is taller, this person is faster, right? Everything is being like, I am going to decipher which one fits exactly what I want. And in sports, that's real time. You get that understanding that the discrimination is purely based upon what you bring to the table, right? So if I want to be put in the proper category of where I would like to be, I have to do those things that are checked off on the list of things that they're scrutinizing, that they're measuring, that they're weighing. So I've always looked at it as, you know, I'm a military kid, and coming from a military background, you know, the idea of letting your work do the talking for you, letting your understanding of how you approach your days, looking at it as an opportunity, that's what I've always seen it as. So I've never seen myself as being victim to anything other than my own hard work, right? So in the end, sports gives you a immediate barometer of what it is that you're doing. Am I doing it the right way? You'll see it play out. Is my preparation the right way? You'll see it play out. And those are the ones that get picked out. You know, they use that watchful. They use those watchful eyes, those hawk eyes, and they see the guys that stick out, and they go for them, right? So the idea of understanding that sports teaches you a lot of things that people don't get an opportunity to necessarily experience until they make it to real life, real world experiences. You get those development lessons at a young age. You start to realize if you're doing what you're supposed to do in practice in youth league, they treat you differently. They pull you aside. They trust your judgment, your opinions, like what play you want to run. I can recall being in youth football league and coaches saying, you know, what you feel is going to work. Like 28 toss, coach. They ran a 28 toss, you know, different things like that. So, but it took you earning that, you know. It's just not one of those sports that they give it away. You're not going to give trust away. They're not going to give admiration away. They're not going to give, you know, the respect that it is that you would like to have. They're just not going to give it. You have to earn that. And I think that those were some of the most valuable lessons that were reinforced being a military kid. It was reinforced in sports and has continued to be a value that not only I live by, but I ultimately raise my kids the same way, and I mentor the guys that are part of my life. I mentor them with those core values and principles that if you want to be discriminated against the right way, it's like, man, it's like one of those like words. It's like, you said discriminate, right? It's like, yeah, I said just like be discriminated in a way where they say that distinction is what separates that person, and what sets them apart is all of those elements that they bring to the table and really, really put their best foot forward. So I do that to this day, and it has done very well by me in terms of what my life trajectory has been and what it continues to be.
You mentioned kids. How would you describe to kids who've never been here what this place is like on a New Year's Day when you got two football teams running out to midfield to get ready to kick off and get it on?
It's an electric place. I've been here quite a few times. I was here this past year when Colorado played UCLA. That was an amazing atmosphere. I was here also in the, what was it? I want to say 2023 maybe, when USC played Penn State here, and they had Paul Puzlesny. I believe Puz was on that team. I know Navarro was on that team. Maybe Puz was gone by then. But we had a really, really good team that year, and those sons of guns beat us in this stadium. I've been here for a few games, and the environment is electric. it's one of those type stadiums. It's not a super large stadium, but it creates a unique intimacy for the game, and I've enjoyed every time I've come here. The atmosphere outside, like the amount of interaction and everything that takes place within the tailgates and leading up to coming through the gates. I mean, it's a really, really, I say, one of the more unique stadiums to come play in, and it's a fun stadium to play in. And you say, well, how do you know? It's 'cause every time I came here to see a game, I always sat there to myself, was like, I wish I could have been able to play here. That's my gauge. It's like I've been to a lot of different stadiums, and when I go in that stadium, some stadiums I'm like kind of like, it's like a little overrated. It's a little overrated experience. But every time I've come to the Rose Bowl, it's always delivered an experience that is pretty enjoyable.
Why is it important to preserve places like this?
It's because of the history, the history that's connected to it. I mean, obviously, like the unveiling of Archie Griffin's his statue. That man played in 4 Rose Bowls. That is unprecedented. It's amazing what he was able to accomplish, winning the 2 Heismans and just being just an amazing ambassador to the game and continuing to be one. But you're talking about that history played out on this soil out here. It's just countless amounts of stories of the most amazing athletes that have played the game, but ultimately have represented as great people. And that's what really matters is when you have venues like this, if you don't have historical value connected to the venue, it kind of doesn't hold as much weight when you talk about the legend of this player, or the legend of that player, the legend of this team, or that coach, or that year. It's always where you set the stage, right? The stage has been set. It's taking place here, and then you get into the characters that are within the storyline of what plays out. And the Rose Bowl has had plenty of those moments where the storyline is really, really coming to life based upon the venue that it's taking place. So it's imperative that you maintain venues like the Rose Bowl in order to continue to build those moments, continue to build those memories, because it actually, in essence, it generates the interest, it stimulates the dreams. I mean, I live in California now. I coached 5 minutes away from here. I was the head coach of a high school 5 minutes away from here. And just the amount of energy and excitement that young guys have wanting to play at Rose Bowl Stadium it's amazing. And the fact that stems and extends beyond the borders of Southern California into other places, because the Rose Bowl itself, the game, has created so many experiences. How many people wanted to be a Kajana Carter after that game? How many people wanted to be a Charles Woodson after that game? How many people want to be an Archie Griffith after those games, Griffin after those games? It's just, it has to be what it is in order for the magnitude of it to be the impact that it's supposed to be.
All right, we talked about this walking down the tunnel. You said you weren't that profound, but I think you undersold yourself. Terry Bradshaw sat up here and said, the place will talk to you if you close your eyes. Yeah. If you were to close yours, what do you hear?
Lavar. Dang. Wish you could have played here, my guy, because you were a bad mamma jamma when you played. And I would have woke up or opened my eyes and I'd been like, you got that right. I would have gave y'all a few memories, a couple things to remember if I had an opportunity to do my work on this field.
Good work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
All right.